Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and today I'm here to finally do the Back from Booknet Fest tag created by Njeri from ONYX Pages. This tag was inspired by Kathy, who made the Booknet Fest tag, and like I said, this was created by ONYX Pages, and I love both of them. They're both amazing content creators, so both of their videos and their channels will be linked down below, so definitely check them out. The Back from Booknet Fest tag was created for Booknet Fest attendees to continue conversations we started at the event and also collectively process our experiences, so I'm just going to jump in with number one, which is explain your BNF experience in one word. For me, that word would have to be generous. I know I should just leave it at that, but I really want to speak more on how I was astonished by how generous everyone was with their time, with their energy, with what they were willing to give, the plans they were willing to make, and overall just how generous this community was with its kindness at Booknet Fest. Number two, what was your favorite session and why? As a Booknet Fest speaker, I'm definitely biased, so I'm going to give two answers for this. My favorite panel that I wasn't on would have to be the small platform, big platform panel. I think it was a really interesting exploration of how platform size influences the kinds of content we make and how we can best support content creators with platforms of all sizes. And it also had one of my favorite moments, which I know Brody mentioned in their tag video, and that was when India from Life as a Page Turner basically called everyone out, saying that people talk about wanting to follow diverse creators, and yet no one was willing to pull out their phones and follow the creators in the room at that moment. And I believe she also said point blank that if you are black or brown or noticeably other in any way, it's that much harder to build your sub count, and that is absolutely true. My favorite session as a panelist was We Don't Just Talk About Books, because I think we got to blow people's minds a little bit and close out the event on a really powerful note. Number three, what is the most interesting thing you learned? It's not so much something I learned as much as it was someone finally articulating something I felt for a very long time, and that of course came from Njeri in our 5 out of 5 stars panel when she mentioned that her criteria for reviewing SFF revolves heavily around whether the creator has envisioned a future for marginalized folks. She mentioned that her testing point is whether she would be welcome or able to survive in the world that they've created, and that's something I think I've been looking for in the SFF I read, but it was more of an unconscious instinct until she put it into words. I also learned that the booktube community has a lot of growing to do. I mean, I've always known that, but this event put a really fine point on it, especially with some of the questions that people posed at panels and the way some panels swerved in certain ways. I think many people are just barely thinking about inclusivity and diversity, and there's a huge gap that going forward we have to continue to address. Like I said, it just put a really fine point on why I need to continue doing this work, because there are so many people who need to continue expanding their thinking in so many ways. Number four, were there any conversations that you had at BNF that you think we should keep talking about as a community for the rest of the year? I think we need to not only continue but evolve the way we discuss things about book Twitter and begin having a more nuanced take on quote-unquote cancel culture, which doesn't even really exist in the way we often think of it. There was an amazing thread I saw the other day, which I will link down below, about how canceling originated from marginalized communities as a way to signal to other folks in the community that this person or this entity did not support their existence, didn't ride for them, so to speak. And canceling served as a red flag for people to withdraw their support of that person or thing if they so chose. And that's where I think the nuance is that's been lost. I think we forget that we all have a right to draw lines for ourselves wherever feels right for us, and we can't police what that looks like or sounds like for other folks. Like if I see something transphobic from an author online, I have the right to draw a line and say I don't feel comfortable passively consuming this person's content, and I can only decide that for myself. Unfortunately, we can't make anyone else stop supporting something or someone as much as we would like to, and the inverse is also true because we also unfortunately can't tell people what they have to support. And I do think it's important to have discussions about why a thing is or is not for you if you want to have that discussion, but like I said, you just can't speak for anyone else. And like Kav said on that panel, the people most affected by cancel culture as we think of it are often people of color and marginalized folks, and the major creators we cancel don't stay canceled, and I think that's why the conversation needs to have more nuance instead of always being dismissed. As many of us experienced and discussed over the weekend, we also need to keep having conversations about how we can be more inclusive and thoughtful and accessible, because we have an extremely long way to go in all of those aspects. Number 5, what was your most memorable moment? So many. I really love all the panels I was on. I think those were amazing conversations, and I'm so glad I was able to use my voice in that way and sit alongside creators who I admire so much. I also love that I was able to collab as much as I did. Brody and I did a chill queer lit chat with with Kathy and also a sapphic rip it or ship it with Kav, and my main NB squad did a collab on Brody's channel, which took us to Barnes & Noble, and of course, book nerds in a bookstore is always such a blast. And seeing all the group photos come together was so great, and prom was such a fun way to blow off some steam and celebrate with my bookish friends. We danced, we sang, we vlogged, it was great. Number 6, in what ways does Booknet Fest add value to the bookish community? I think Booknet Fest humanizes our community in a way that other events simply can't. This is a conference for book creators made by book creators, and to be able to meaningfully interact with creators you've only ever seen on a screen is just priceless. And I think it's also an event that allows creators to organically meet and share space. A few people have said this, but when I was at Booknet Fest, I never felt like I was officially networking or marketing myself or like showcasing my brand. I felt like I was having earnest conversations and meeting friends. There's a beautiful sense of connection and synergy that happens at Booknet Fest that is so genuine and fantastic. And it's just incredible to be in a space where like it's 2 a.m. and people are literally still gathered talking about books or what they're reading, or to be like in a rental car with Caitlin going to the airport at 4 a.m. and having a genuine conversation about N.K. Jemisin and the reckoning she gave us in the stone sky. You don't get to have those kinds of exchanges anywhere else. Number 7, show us your swag, book swap treasure, or something great that you got from a vendor. While I did drop off 2 books for the book swap, I didn't claim any in exchange, which is fine because I didn't expect to, but I did pick up this Biblioho pin from Dust and Pages, which is great and 100% my brand. Kate from Chapter Kate was also giving out these custom BookTube pins they made for BookCon, I believe, and that may very well be one of my absolute favorite things I brought home from the entire event. Plus, I got all these bookmarks from creators, which is great because you can never have enough, but also I wish I had gotten more bookmarks because you can never have enough. Number 8, shout out a few content creators who inspired you at BNF. All of my fellow panelists, Njeri of ONYX Pages, just showed up that weekend and had so many thoughtful things to say about why literature matters and how we can contextualize it in meaningful ways. Kav from X Reading Solace X, I'm always just struck by how they're so wise beyond their years, and the way they carried themselves, the points they were able to make on the fly just completely blew me away. Kathy of Kathy Trithardt was such a great moderator and did a great job of keeping the conversation going while putting in her 2 cents and just being her delightful self. Thomas from SFF 180 was charming as ever in person and had a lot of great anecdotes that really added to the conversation, and I think he has such a great perspective on how reviews function on BookTube, and I was really glad to hear his thoughts. Sam from Will Read for Booze was fantastic. We're both Tome Topple vets, which was nice, and I think she had a lot of valuable things to say about the difference between book blogs and BookTube and how her team puts together the content they create. And of course, Mari from My Name is Marinez, who was not only helping to run the show, but also curated a really meaningful panel on how we can use fiction to examine and understand real-life issues. It was really great to hear her speak. Outside of that, I was just so glad to share space with the Latinxathon fam. Jocelyn, Priscilla, and Yvette, the NB squad, Jesse, Brody, Kav, and myself really had each other's backs all weekend, which was awesome, and it was great to be able to commune with people who just get it. Also, special shout out to the tea hags, Rebecca and Sarah, whose kindness in the villas was just astonishing. They made sure everyone was fed and entertained and comfortable, and they always made me feel taken care of, which really matters when you're at a bookish event on the other side of the continent. They really made me and everyone else who came through their doors feel so at home and so welcome, and I really appreciate them for that. Number 9, if you plan to come back next year, is there anything you'd want to change? That is quite a question, and I have quite an answer. First of all, this is not a call-out because it's already been discussed with and addressed by the BNF creators, but gender inclusivity and general awareness of how we can be more thoughtful and empathetic about how we interact with marginalized creators absolutely needs to change. I think some folks mentioned that last year people's pronouns were on a sticker and this year pronouns were on the badges themselves, which is great, but neither method really seems to have worked, and it seemed a little bit more performative than it was effective. But even so, I'm hopeful that in the future, not only will there be a way to display pronouns, but to actually honor them during the event, because that can really impact a person's experience. The number of times me and my fellow queer folks had to correct people either for ourselves or for our friends was astronomical to say the least, and it's discouraging to even overhear stuff like that behind closed doors or hear people getting misgendered on their own panels. Again, not a call out because it's been formally brought up through the correct avenues, but as I said, it just feels like a symptom of the fact that most folks have never thought about anything that doesn't revolve around cis people and white people, and it shows. And I'm pretty sure I speak for Sam and Mari when I say we all just want BNF to be a safe and accepting space. I'd also like to see the question filling process during panels change. I really love how Kathy handled that because she invited people to write down their questions as they came to them during the panel and then just quietly bring them up to her so we could answer them afterwards. And that worked really well because she was able to read the question directly into the mic and she was able to choose which questions she thought were most interesting and appropriate, and it also takes the heat off identifying the question asker in the moment. So I really like that system a lot. And it doesn't even have to be implemented that same way. It could be like a Google form that's only open for the length of the panel where people can submit questions in real time from their phones. I think it's worth looking into any kind of method that avoids putting people on the spot, and by people I mean both question askers and panelists, and I think that would really improve the event. And in the future, I would like to see panels with disabled folks and neurodivergent folks, and I also think it's extremely necessary for us to have discussions about accessibility, not only in BookTube as an online resource, but also at Booknet Fest. And again, none of this is to say I had like an awful experience. I had one of the best weekends of my life, but that doesn't mean the event can't continue to grow and evolve, and I think that's exactly what Sam and Mari want. And finally, number 10, please share your prom portrait or any other photos or videos of yourself having fun at BNF. I actually included a bunch of photos in my Booknet Fest vlog, which I will link down below and on the screen, but I will also include a few faves in the outro of this video, so stick around for that in a moment. So that's it for the Back from Booknet Fest tag. All the creators I mentioned in this video and included in my vlog will be listed down below, and you should go subscribe to them immediately. But my question for today is, if you went to Booknet Fest, what were some of your personal highlights? Meet me in the comments and let's chat. But that's everything I have for this tag today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the flip side of the page.